Hi, everybody. I thought this would be a good way to substitute for the class I have to cancel. Um, what I plan to do is about an hour long demonstration of how you can go about researching your topics for your um, persuasive researched argument, primarily using the databases, the academic search tools within the library. Um, and I want us to cover a few things. I'm going to go share this screen. So here are the basic skills I'd like us to cover, or I'm going to cover. And I'm going to do a couple different searches, a couple different topics, not everybody's topic. But basically, the process is the same for everyone. Of course, everybody's topic is different and you'll have to adapt for different things. And some things are easier to find and some things are harder to find. The most important thing to keep in mind is that when you are searching for good material, you shouldn't just assume that the first thing you find is what you need. You've got to have a sort of a flexible attitude where you're willing to try a variety of different things. So we are going to talk about a variety of things. Primarily, as I said, the library workshop, the library databases, primarily academic sources, because you, for the assignment, need to have at least a few academic sources. And you also need to have 5 sources for the annotated bibliography that is due soon. I want to remind you about what's on the course site. Of course, the assignment is there with all the subcomponents. So if you look under the persuasive recommendation report, and you will see the assignment and all the sub-assignments. So you've now done task 1 and task 2, and we're working towards task 3. On the week 10 page, there's a sample database search. And that is, if you learn better by having a piece of paper written with the instructions, you should open that up, print it up, or put it on a separate screen and just follow it along. Notice that this is for the sample persuasive report on the Trojan Transit, which is included in all your materials. So these were 2 sources that would be useful for my report about reinstating the Trojan Transit, basically a shuttle service. And somebody, is it Deasia, is doing, yes, Deasia is doing a piece on that. And so I would definitely follow these suggestions, Deasia, for your source. There's a couple other education-oriented ones, like the dining situation, and you can follow the same thing. Also on, last Tuesday, let's see, it was oh, yes, it was election day. So Tuesday, November 3rd, I did a library database search for something to do with parking. And that, of course, is in recording. So that's another resource you can have to figure out how to go about doing this. And the first thing to do is to understand the how to get to the library and then how to select the database. So to get to the library, you go to academics and look down to the last thing here. You could type Ottenheimer Library in the quick links. You could go to students and find it there. And the Ottenheimer Library takes you directly to their searching tools. There are several different tools. If you wanted to find a book, you would use the library catalog. If you were looking directly at, if you already knew of an article and you wanted to see if we had the journal, you would click there. But we're going to work with databases. And if you already know the database you want to use, you would type it in, but we're going to start with databases A to Z. And I thought we could start with the topic of gender neutral bathrooms, which I believe was Brenda's idea. And I wasn't really sure, Brenda, whether you were interested in single stall bathrooms or making the bathrooms gender neutral. Obviously, that's going to be something that you're going to need to narrow to as you go along. But I went ahead with just sort of this general sense of gender neutral bathrooms, because that's the term you use. So there are 192 databases, which is a bit overwhelming. But a lot of them are grouped together, owned by the same companies. And the two big groups are ProQuest Central and EBSCO. And if you get into one of those, you can search multiple databases at the same time. So I picked Academic Search Complete because that is a good general database. Whenever you're in an EBSCOhost database, you know it is because of this EBSCOhost logo, you can click on Choose Databases and see if there are other databases that might be relevant. So if you're interested, if for example, she were interested in gender neutral bathrooms in education contexts, she might want to add those. These are the education ones. If she was kind of interested in, what's doing to society, she might add the SOC index with full text, which is sociology. If she was interested in health things, she might type Medline and CNOL. CNOL is a nursing one. And she might want to click on Business Source Elite. So I don't know if she's going to need all these, but we're going to start with the principle that let's make our search as broad as possible, and then we can keep narrowing. And in fact, that is the constant process of any kind of research project. You sort of cast as wide a net as possible, see what you can get, then you narrow it down, then you sort of you might get too narrow, but you focus in on one particular thing and then go in depth on that one particular thing, and keep doing this sort of expansion and contraction until you find what you need. I usually start with as broad a possibility as possible, just to see what happens. So I'm just going to type in gender neutral bathrooms. You can see that this is on my personal laptop, and since I typed this in, I don't know, a few days ago when I was developing this, it already pops up. And it turns out gender neutral bathrooms does in fact give you a variety of things. Not too many, but there is a fair amount. So you have about gender neutral bathrooms in the libraries, in a school district. Google's New London office is going to have gender neutral bathrooms. Here's sort of a, well, if you look at this, you see it's page 1 to 1. One page, it's a color photograph. So there is some photograph. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. So it turns out there is a article, and there is a photo, but we don't get to see it. This is from Time Magazine, and it's a one-page article. Boston City Hall is getting gender neutral bathrooms. The gender neutral bathroom revolution is growing. Another Time article, another Time article, a lot of Time articles. Christian Science Monitor. This is about trans-inclusive bathroom legislation. The mayor signs a bathroom law. So this is definitely a possible topic that we can find things on. But you might notice that most of the things here are sort of popular things, not scholarly, not academic. What do I mean by scholarly and academic? As you saw in one of the videos I shared with you, they can distinguish between popular periodicals and scholarly. The popular ones tend to be shorter articles. They are different, sort of much a informal style, lots of pictures, etc. The scholarly ones tend to not have pictures and tend to be longer articles and tend to be based on research. So one of the things I'm doing is asking you to find at least some scholarly articles to use for this paper, so that you have the experience of actually reading and using scholarly articles. How can you make sure that you're getting scholarly articles? Well, that is one of some of the limitations that you can do. So if you say references available, you get it narrowed down to 5 different sources. So a scholarly article is more likely to have references. Another way to narrow it is to narrow to scholarly peer-reviewed journals. And as you saw in that video that I shared, that's on the week 11 page, scholarly and peer-reviewed means that in order to get this published, other scholars in the field reviewed it and made suggestions for revising until it was acceptable for printing. So what that means is that established scholars within the field have accepted this idea. Here's a one with a cute title: Stall Gender Neutral Public Bathrooms. Here is one from the Journal of Adolescence: Kicked Out, LGBTQ Youth Bathroom Experiences and Preferences. So this is actually gets at what I said at the beginning. I wasn't sure what exactly the focus was for her, the interest in gender neutral bathrooms. And she also mentioned something about having a family bathroom with diaper changing materials. So if she's not interested in this transgender issue, then you know, some of these might be useful. If the gender identity issue is part of what she wants to look at, then that is useful. Now, this didn't give us that many topics or sources, so I might try to do something else in terms of using my search terms. And in all the databases, there are lists of the best subjects terms to use. If we click on this word subjects at the top, so I had put out a variety of databases. Let's go down at the bottom here and see which were the databases that actually found things. Well, so there are 8 in this, there are 10 in this list, and 8 came from Academic Search Complete. So let's take a look at Academic Search Complete and what they use for their subject terms. Now, I'm going to browse Academic Search Complete subject terms, which is in this box, not this one, but that's still the search. And so underneath it says term begins with, well, it might not be that, and relevance. Let's see what relevancy rate. And so what you get are terms that are used in this database for articles that are on the same topic. It's basically a way of tagging that source, so that they've agreed in that database that if they're talking about gender neutral bathrooms, they will use the term unisex restrooms. And then if you click on unisex restrooms, it shows you here are broader terms if you just want to look at restrooms or toilets or bathrooms, and then terms of what it is used for. And here we have our gender neutral restrooms or bathrooms. I guess they don't use bathrooms too often. So unisex restrooms is apparently the term that we want to for that. And we are going to search for that. And that actually gives us 133 sources. We want to narrow to scholarly peer reviewed, and that gets us down to 10. Bathroom battlegrounds. Well, that's interesting. This is May 2020. That's a very recent. And this turns out to be a book review of a book. And so that suggests two things. One, you can read the book review and see if that's useful. And two, you can see if you could get a copy of the book. And there is no abstract here. And I know Choi's Current Reviews for Academic Libraries tends to be really pretty much short. It says it's a 1/4 page. But you can still try to get the article. Here's one of the things you can do with that is you click on it and you end up with 3 book reviews of that book. So we have this library review. We have Law and Social Inquiry review, which is a little longer thing. It's 559 to 566 pages. And we have a brief notice from Social Service Review that are there. Now, all 3 of these say this: get full text, get from another library, but you don't want to panic when you see that. When it says get full text, often it'll be connected to something within the ULR library system. And here it is. Now, notice that we left EBSCO and now we're in ProQuest, but ProQuest apparently has worked out an agreement with this trade journal for Choice to print full things. Now, this is a pretty short review. Might take a look and see the other ones. Oops. Let's see about this one. So this is just a brief notice of those. So what it looks like that we would want to get is the book notes about that one. So at this point, let's go back to now. One of the things that's nice about these, all right, they've logged me out. I took a break and cleaned out my computer and now I'm back. So hopefully I can find things better. So we had gotten to the point where we found out that unisex restrooms are, is a term that is often used. And maybe what we're interested in is the design of unisex restrooms. So we might add that to our search term. And I had actually, did I? Okay. And that gets us 5 topics that 5 sources that include some material. All of these are so when we search for unisex restrooms, notice we get 109 items, and notice that I put unisex restrooms into the subject term field. If I did it all text, I should get more. I got 319. That means that it looks for it in all the text. If I put parentheses or quotation marks around it, it doesn't look for unisex and restrooms. It starts looking for unisex restrooms next to each other, and that should narrow it. So that gets it down to 199. If I put it in the abstract, that gets it down to 3. So that's really probably possibly too narrow. But notice that what I do end up with is this one, potty parity in perspective, gender and family issues in planning and designing public restrooms. So this is sounds like a very interesting journal. And let's see what the abstract says. And notice that its subject terms are restrooms, public spaces, sex discriminatory and law. So it does not have as a subject term unisex restrooms, but unisex restrooms turned out to be within the abstract. So it's possible that putting the quotation marks around it, insisting that they be right next to each other, may be just too narrow for what we're trying to find. But reading it, it sounds like it's possibly quite useful. Have historically just blah, 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 well, it examines how public restrooms pose special health and safety problems. And then it talks about potty parity issues. Now, looking at it, it does not appear to be available at our library. When it says check library catalog for this journal, that always means that we don't have it. So you click on that, and it says no matches found. However, it also says get from another journal or another library. And what happens is you go into Interlibrary Loan. Now, I've already got an account in Interlibrary Loan. If it's the first time you've ever clicked on this to get into Interlibrary Loan, you'll be asked probably to log in or create a login information. It's definitely worth doing it because Interlibrary Loan is a really useful tool, and they will send you it. And these days, because the librarians aren't doing a whole lot, you will get it probably in a day. once you've asked. Now, the article is all the spots are pre-filled. And the only thing you have to add to it is the date. So we'll just say the 24th. My name is right there, and I think I'm going to submit this request. And so then you get into my history at Interlibrary Loan, and these are sources that I've requested. This is one I just did. This one I just requested on last Thursday, so apparently it's in transit. This one is available to view, and so you just click on it and you read it. And then when I think it gives you usually a month to read it and download it, and then it expires. So that looks like it might be a good general article that deals with the overall view and also deals with it from a perspective of how you design such public restrooms. I want to show you another tool that is in the library, and there's something they call find using smart text searching. Sometimes you can find something, sometimes not. And you click on find some similar results. And the whole abstract is copied into the search. And then any of those words are located. Now, you would never want to change the sorting. In fact, it only gives you relevance for this. And you find here that they include books as well as articles. The Restroom Revolution, Unisex Toilets and Campus Politics. And you can click on it. And the same thing happens as with an article. It gets requested through Interlibrary Loan, just like I did the other. It may get us a little too far afield. But it does suggest another a search term, and that's family. And that comes up with one. How about just Boolean phrase, which it says here. So I, in the same line, put restrooms or bathrooms or toilets. So therefore it's going to look for one of those words, any or both of them, or two of them, or three of them. And it has to be with family. And let's say we want it to be in the subject term. And we want this to be in the subject term, or in the abstract, let's say. This gets it down to a little bit more narrow, but it seems to be about a lot of toilet training. What if we said So some of those other things got it much too narrow. This gets us that other article. But here we have an interesting architects proposed design solutions for equitable restrooms. And this one is actually available right here. It's a short article, but it might provide useful information. Here's one. So when we search for unisex restrooms, notice we get 109 items, and notice that I put unisex restrooms into the subject term field. If I did it all text, I should get more. I got 319. That means that it looks for it in all the text. If I put parentheses or quotation marks around it, it doesn't look for unisex and restrooms. It starts looking for unisex restrooms next to each other, and that should narrow it. So that gets it down to 199. If I put it in the abstract, that gets it down to 3. So that's really probably possibly too narrow. But notice that what I do end up with is this one, potty parity in perspective, gender and family issues in planning and designing public restrooms. So this is sounds like a very interesting journal. And let's see what the abstract says. And notice that its subject terms are restrooms, public spaces, sex, restroom, toilets, and law. So it does not have as a subject term unisex restrooms, but unisex restrooms turned out to be within the abstract. So it's possible that putting the quotation marks around it, insisting that they be right next to each other, may be just too narrow for what we're trying to find. But reading it, it sounds like it's possibly quite useful. Have historically just blah, 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 well, it examines how public restrooms pose special health and safety problems. And then it talks about potty parity issues. Now, looking at it, it does not appear to be available at our library. When it says check library catalog for this journal, that always means that we don't have it. So you click on that and it says no matches found. However, it also says get from another journal or another library. And what happens is you go into Interlibrary Loan. Now, I've already got an account in Interlibrary Loan. If it's the first time you've ever clicked on this to get into Interlibrary Loan, you'll be asked probably to log in or create a login information. It's definitely worth doing it because Interlibrary Loan is a really useful tool, and they will send you it. And these days, because the librarians aren't doing a whole lot, you will get it probably in a day. once you've asked. Now, the article is all the spots are pre-filled. And the only thing you have to add to it is the date. So we'll just say the 24th. My name is right there, and I think I'm going to submit this request. And so then you get into my history at Interlibrary Loan, and these are sources that I've requested. This is one I just did. This one I just requested on last Thursday, so apparently it's in transit. This one is available to view, and so you just click on it and you read it. And then when I think it gives you usually a month to read it and download it, and then it expires. So that looks like it might be a good general article that deals with the overall view and also deals with it from a perspective of how you design such public restrooms. I want to show you another tool that is in the library, and there's something they call find using smart text searching. Sometimes you can find something, sometimes not. And you click on find some similar results. And the whole abstract is copied into the search. And then any of those words are located. Now, you would never want to change the sorting. In fact, it only gives you relevance for this. And you find here that they include books as well as articles. The Restroom Revolution, Unisex Toilets and Campus Politics. You can click on it. And the same thing happens as with an article. So we could request it through Interlibrary Loan, just like I did the other. Okay, so some of those other things got it much too narrow. This gets us that other article. But here we have an interesting architect's proposed design solutions for equitable restrooms. And this one is actually available right here. It's a short article, but it might provide useful information. So let's try another search. Liz Hafler wants to do something on the understaffing for CNAs. And so let's go back to the list of articles and databases and look up what it says to use for nursing. And it says use CNAL Complete, which I know is another EBSCO database. And let's just kind of put in staffing and CNA and just see what happens. And you see quite a lot of articles about staffing and CNAs. And look at this, the influence of nurse staffing levels on quality of care in nursing homes. CNA's commitment to achieve environments that support professional practice. CNA Blaskaiser bid to derail safe staffing law and displace RNs. It looks like, so CNA is actually probably not so good, because I think CNA is the California Nursing Association. So we don't want to use CNA, we want to use nursing assistant. Which is actually going to give us better. Nurse staffing, nursing assistants, and hospital mortality, retrospective longitudinal cohort study. And it tells you it's an academic journal. Uncovering the disconnect between nursing workforce policy. Let's take a look at this first one, because that looks like it might really relate. And you see that there are two subjects here that might relate: nursing assistants, personnel staffing and scheduling, and hospital mortality. Maybe that would be too narrow, but let's say you want to do personnel staffing and scheduling. You click on that. This MM stands for and you want to do that. And let's say you just want to do something on safety because you think it has too much, there's something to do with safety. Too little. Let's go back. Demanding work schedules and mental health in nursing assistants working in nursing homes. That sounds like it might really relate. Gaps in nurse staffing and nursing home resident needs. And this is one that actually you have the PDF right there that you can use. Staffing and job satisfaction, nurses and nursing assistants. Journal of Nursing Management. So here is another thing that you can do to find a source. You find a journal like this, Journal of Nursing Management. That what that's telling you is that that particular journal is going to cover a lot of nursing management issues, which is exactly what staffing is. So it's a hot link, and it's something that you can mine. And over here you see that they've have everything from 1993 through to 2020. Over here it says bibliographic records from 93 to 2020. It looks like that's actually when they started the journal. And it says search within this publication. So let's just take a look at what happens when we add staffing. The effect of nurse staffing on patient safety outcomes, a cross-sectional survey. So you see there's quite a lot of sources here. The impact of nurse staffing. So pretty much every single one of these looks like it might be relevant, which kind of creates a problem of, how do you select and one of the things that is really helpful is when you can find some kind of systematic review article. Association between the patient-nurse ratio and nurse outcomes in acute care hospitals. So this is narrowing it to acute care hospitals, and you might not be working on the acute care hospital context, but what they find there is going to be helpful in general, to talk in general about the relationship between patient-nurse ratio and nurse outcomes in acute care hospitals. So you read the review, the abstract, and you find evaluate and summarize current evidence on the relationship between the ratio and outcomes. 30 studies were identified analyzing 8 selected key nurse outcomes. And the special interest is evidence-based practice, which is, I know, what the nursing field is really arguing for. This gives me a chance to talk about one other source or tool within the database, and that is the fact that you can email. So I'm going to email this to Elizabeth Riccardi. And it says that the email has been sent to Elizabeth Heffler. Again, what I did was I found an article, then we searched within this journal, and then found this systematic review. And then, of course, there's a whole lot of other articles that might be useful, but these review articles are really helpful because they cover several at a time, and they are very systematic on their collection of them, and so that they can summarize what the research has been. I want to talk about another source. Alyssa wants to do something on the licensing requirements for three-wheelers, and it turns out that those requirements are constantly changing. So it might be good to start with newspapers or news. Some sources, you definitely want to look at the newspapers, the very popular kinds of things, the immediate things. And US Newsstream is, I think, the best. And it is a ProQuest project. Another topic that the newspaper might is Ryuna's. She wants to talk about fees in the time of COVID at universities, which is, again, another hot current topic. And so the newspaper might be the best way to do that. So just to again, we have no idea what the term would be, but when you're using a ProQuest thing, it kind of, the typical terms are, they sort of pop up, they have an autocomplete. I think I will subtract that. And let's say I want to, so she's interested in licensing. And you see from the newspaper articles that this is a very hot topic, that all the states are all going through changes all the time. And you see something about Arkansas. Apparently, Arkansas reclassified license requirements in 2017. But Montana did it in 2019. So you kind of wonder if there's somewhere you could get a sort of a general view about that. And that may not be available in the academic databases. This is the kind of time when you might want to go look at a, do a Google search. Oops. Read and Write in Arkansas. Notice that that is something by a commercial product, the Polaris, which is a three-wheeler. And they, of course, want it to be reclassified as not requiring a motorcycle license. So they see it as a success, but it's my understanding that Alyssa wants to urge us to go back. And then we see bit can now be operated with standard. Okay, so Wisconsin. And this is the kind of thing that out on the web. So these articles from newspapers and from marketing things may be helpful just to give you the overall view. But when you find this, okay, so this is the National Conference of State Legislators, which is an organization that reviews legislation and allows you to see across the country what the standards are. And so this is actually providing a lot of information. Then you also within it, it also gives you the name of one of the trade organizations, and we don't want to download, but you apparently have to download it. And it summarizes the state policies. 15 states require this, 11 states require that. And so all of this is extremely useful in her doing her report to try to find out what are the requirements in other places and what are the rationale for doing different things. And from that article, you see there is a National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. So the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators recommendations has best practices and recommendations for regulating. You click on that and you can download it. And and this is the book, Best Practices for the Regulation of Three-Wheel Vehicles. And this, it turns out, is a report just from 2020. So from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, apparently Congress requested that they do a report on this. And so this looks like a really good source for what she's doing. So let me go back and talk just in general about what we covered. We talked about just doing a traditional library database search. You can use either EBSCO or ProQuest. The key is to be flexible. You can try trial and error. You can mine the good result. You can use the subject terms that you've found. You can search within a journal, a specific journal that looks like it might be promising because the journal itself is so narrowly focused on your topic. You can also restrict your searches to academic or by date or year. And then there are tools that you can use once you find it. You can save them. You can create folders. You can create an account that you can have so the next time that you're there. And you can use it as a citation creator, but consider it a draft. When articles are not available or books, then you can request interlibrary loan. And you can also, depending on your topic, use the web appropriately. The example that I gave was looking for research about three-wheel licenses. Well, you can find some pages that have to do with, that are put together by the companies that make these three-wheel vehicles like Polaris. But that's not going to be a real, well, it's going to be a source of information from a very limited perspective. And so better to try to find other kinds of things like, for example, the national agencies and the national reports that they are doing things that Congress is asking for, and also the national or the National Organization of State Legislators, which has written a report and which has been collecting the variations of state policies. So let me go back to the assignment. Remind you where you are. We are now at Tuesday, November 10th. And then in a week, next Tuesday, your annotated bibliography is due. So you should be definitely looking for everything that you need for that. We'll meet on Thursday and we'll talk some more about that. When you get down here, when it describes each of the tasks, be sure that you click on the thing that says the details. And here's the details about annotated bibliography. All right, so have a good evening. I will see you on Thursday.